Hey everyone, this is Phil Faso reporting not from Evans City, in fact, but from my own apartment in Levittown, Long Island, New York. So, let's start off by actually talking about the live blogging experience itself. The day I arrived in Evans City, I put up a blog that night. Day one, I went back to my hotel after the fest, put up a blog. Day two, I got caught up in some other stuff. By the time I got home, it was way too late. Day three, I intended to post live again. I was actually going to try to post from the festival itself and film one of these on a park bench there. Problem being that no Wi-Fi anywhere, not in the middle of a park like that. So I decided to take a few days, get back to New York, get some rest before I go back to work in a few days, and report from here. So I'll talk to you first about day two. The important stuff on day two: Romero returns to Evans City, interestingly enough. So, let's start with the morning at the chapel. Chapel rededication. The Evans City Chapel that Gary's worked so hard to get together and refreshed and built up brand new pretty much. Looks very, very nice. So he decided on day two there on Saturday to host the rededication ceremony. When Gary came out, had some nice words to say to a couple hundred fans. It was a pretty nice turnout. Parking around the cemetery was interesting, and I was actually directed to pull up onto a grade of grass that was about 10 or 15 feet from, I guess, some tombstones, so that was kind of different, to put it plainly. So, what can I say about the dedication itself? A lot of people were there, a lot of people were into it. Gary, obviously, was very dedicated to it, had some very nice, heartfelt things to say about all the rededication, the process that I went through to get the chapel built up to what it is today. Very nice looking, by the way. I'll show you some pics later on in the week when I post the pics up. And then it was George Romero's turn. George Romero came out, said some nice things about the chapel, his experience with making the film, the fans, and then he did a very nice thing and listed all the people who, in his memory, are no longer with us. Starting with Dwayne Jones, and filing all the way down to a number of people you may not have heard of unless you're like me and you really happen to know just about everything there is to know about the film. So what came next? Well, back to the Edco Park for some autographs. So I managed to get Jeannie Jeffries, who is very, very friendly, very cute even in her, I guess she's got to be in her 50s now, and very smoochy, by the way. Gave me a nice kiss on the cheek. Cuddled in real close. That was not a bad experience. Interesting that her husband was taking a picture of me with her, but hey. And I swooped around and met John Kirsch, who is the quote-unquote teenage zombie. He is apparently, according to him, the second youngest person in the film. Kyra Schoen would be the first. She was 9. So I asked him if, what it was like being a teenager in a film like this. And he said it brought him all sorts of popularity among his peers when he was in high school. Good for him. I was kind of initially, a little leery about getting his autograph because he's really not a major actor in the film. He's not one of the big-time zombies. But actually it turned out to be a very nice experience because, like I said, as I will say, he was a very nice guy and kind of fun. He seemed to be having fun with the whole thing, so... Next, the elusive Romero interview, which unfortunately continues to be just that, elusive. I had gone to Evans City in the hopes of maybe getting a few minutes with him. I was told that he wasn't, doing interviews. I said, okay, can't hurt to try. I did inquire while I was there. I was told one of the deals was strictly he was not doing any interviews. He was just taking pictures. And as an offspurt to that, interestingly enough, he wasn't signing anything, which seemed to cause one of the guests there to be a little upset about that, which she voiced some views on the internet a few days later. Again, I'm not going to touch that because it is what it is. I've met Romero so many times in the past, and to be honest, I wasn't even going to get a picture with him, but I figured out, what the hell, it's free. I'm here, there's no line. There was a line with hundreds of people in it, and that took a few hours. By the time that had dwindled down, there was no line. So I went up, sat next to him, and I said, listen, so it's got to be cool being back at the ground zero of zombies. And he said, yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. That is pretty cool. So it was a nice, quick experience. Take a shot. Romero is always a generous, kind guy. Everyone who has ever worked with him says that. Fans, I never heard a nasty word said about the guy in all the time I've been a fan of Night of the Living Dead and the other Dead films. And he's real. He really is. Sometime other I will relate my story, or you can go check it out under the Face the Slayer section under my Romero picks over there. You can read about my first encounter with Romero, and that will explain to you why I think he is a god among filmmakers. Okay? And that's about it from there. Until I left. There was no need for me to stay around until 7 o'clock. I had all my autographs by that point. So I figured, okay, you know what, try to get my interviews tomorrow. I'll slide back, and now I will head to the Monroeville Mall with Dominic Mancini and his Australian friend Brett. Because Lenny Lies, the machete zombie from Dawn of the Dead, was going to be touring the mall with them, supposedly showing them all sorts of cool stuff. This place here, this happened, and that over there, that happened, and come with me. And I wiggled myself in. Now, I'm not big on visiting locations. I'd be much bigger on them if they were being like locations while somebody's filming there. That I would be in on. Just visiting locations, not so much. I'd already been to Evans City before this back in 2009. I was there that morning. And I figured out, well, what the hell? Something to do. I'm in Pittsburgh. Might as well. Dom's a good guy. I haven't seen him in a while. I went out with him and Brett on Friday night to dinner. So we go and we check out the Monroeville Mall. I show up about 6:30. Lenny Lies is already there, ready to tour. Probably the one way I could sum this up is if you've seen Dawn of the Dead, and I'm taking if you're watching this blog, you probably know just about as much about the mall as Lenny Lies does. Things have changed in the mall with very little that is the same, and I'll cover that in a second. So, finding locations where stuff happens means walking around for hours and hours and trying to say, did it happen here or did it happen here? Or maybe it happened there. I don't know, maybe over here. So, cool part of this is, the windows up top where they break in, still the same. The pond and the little bridge that they walk over, still the same. The boiler room. It's a boiler room. Still the same. Not many changes going on there. So, that being the case, we happen to head into the boiler room. And the other boys shot the hell out of that. Dom's friends John and Jeff were both there. Very nice Pennsylvanians. They explained to me what an orange belt was, but I'll cover that in the next one. And that was that. I probably could have interviewed Lenny Lies, but the day was going a little long as it was, not only for me, but for Dom and Brett, who had run all over checking out filming locations from Romero flicks. So, that being the case, we headed out of the mall and into TGI Fridays minus Lenny Lies. And let me tell you, as a restaurant manager, terrible service is never ever acceptable no matter what the circumstances are. And I knew we were in trouble as soon as the girl came up and we said we were ready with our order, and she said, can I just take the drinks? I got to put them in and blah blah blah, and I'll come back for the food. Okay. And what should have been a joyous night out with the boys, just having some fun, drinking some beers, stopped me from drinking past my first beer. I was so upset. So that should be about explain what this is all about. Anyway, after some beers back at Brett and Dom's hotel, I went back to my own hotel in Evans City in preparation for what was to come on day 3. And for that one, you will have to wait for the next blog, which I will be filming and posting shortly. So do check us out at deathensemble.com, where we're always bringing news and stuff like that, and reviews, keeping it real for the horror fans out there. Alright, back to Evans City memories. Be cool, folks.